Hello, guys.
Hello, Simon. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Simon from the Pittsburgh Steelers UK podcast. How you doing, man?
That's the one. Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Delighted that you could make it, man. Why don't you introduce yourself first of all before we dip into the
Yeah,
questions?
sure thing. So I'm the host of the UK Steelers podcast, running for a couple of years now, along with my good buddies Gavin, Dave, and Rich over in the US. We do it once a week, and we get very into the draft. So we've been doing this for the last 12 weeks now, all culminating in this. I thought I timed this badly actually because the Steelers just announced the fourth round pick, so thought I'd be messing up the timings a little bit, but that's come in, so I'm now free for a little while.
Hey, all right. So you have gone so far in this draft. Najee Harris at 24, which was a highly mocked pick and
Yeah.
entirely expected. I think your pick was in after about 10 seconds of the 10-minute clock, so you knew where you were going with that. 55, you went Pat Fryermuth, who I'm higher on than a lot of other people. I think he could have gone higher than 55. And Kendrick Green at guard 87. And then the most recent pick, 128, Dan Moore Jr. I had him listed as a guard out of Texas A&M, but they had him listed as a tackle on the broadcast. How do you feel about those picks so far? Are you pleased?
Yeah, well, it's been a bit of a strange one in Pittsburgh, and we've kind of debated this a lot on our podcast in terms of what do you want to do. The issue with the Steelers last year, as you probably know, we had the 32nd ranked rushing offense. That's toppled down from a few years ago when we had Mike Munchak and one of the best offensive lines, in the NFL. That's obviously what they wanted to address this year. But the question was, do you do that? It's a chicken and egg situation. Do you do that with the top tier running back in Najee Harris, or do you do that with the offensive line? And my position was always that you target the offensive line first and you can kind of deal with the runner later in the draft. So I don't really agree with the way the Steelers have gone about this. Rich, my podcast co-host, disagrees. He loved Najee. I love Najee as well, but it's just a fundamental positional value thing for me. What I will say on a positive note, I love the players. I don't, I don't want to come across as negative. I love Najee. I think he's the best running back in this class. I'm really interested in Pat Fryermuth and his upside as a tight end. Like you say, you're a bit higher on him than most. So, yeah, very enticed by the players. I'm just not totally sure about the positional value. Going running back and tight end in the first two rounds.
I think if he had been given the most recent year Fryermuth and he'd shown the production he had in the previous year, that he would have threatened as a first round pick. I just think he's that good. Excellent hands, good blocker. He got a really good all round game. So I'm worried about that. Do you think that spells the end of one of the Lions' favourite former first round picks?
Well, not this year. I mean, it's tough, right? I didn't see us keeping hold of Ebron for another year after this one, just contract wise. So I think this is the idea, right? After next year, probably cut Ebron or let the contract expire. It's a shame. I kind of like Eric. I know Detroit fans aren't in love with Eric Ebron. I know Colts fans are a little bit more fond. Listen, at the end of the day, he's got concrete hands, right? But he seems like a nice guy, and he's a weapon in the red zone.
He is definitely a weapon in the red zone. I do remember that when things were starting to go wrong for the Steelers after your amazing start last year, that there was a lot of frustration about drops, and Ebron was one of those who was at fault several times, and you could see the coaching staff fuming at him specifically. So I was surprised he brought him back too, really.
I
How
was
do
gonna I
you...
was gonna ask sorry
Yeah,
sorry Matt, I
go
was
for
gonna
it.
ask in terms of the offensive line and that whole like debate, because obviously we have our debates on about the Lions, the way that they're going, and that whole offensive line versus running back. For me, the big deal with not strengthening the offensive line for the Steelers is, first of all, the Browns defense, and how the Browns defense is absolutely stacked, and they've added as well picks in the last couple of days, and obviously you're playing against the Ravens defense, which historically is always one of the best. And at some point, I'm sure the Bengals defense is going to get better. But does that kind of like play on your mind in terms of that tactic of not bolstering the offensive line?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you've hit right on it. I'm going to make sure we talk about this on our next show next week when we recap the draft. But this is my biggest concern about this draft. As much as I like the players we've taken, I'm now concerned, and this is blasphemy in Pittsburgh. So I'm hoping there's no Yinzers out there listening to this, but I'm concerned that the gap between the Browns and the Steelers has just got wider, and it's not in the direction that we want it to. You look at the Browns draft and who they've come away with Greg Newsome, and JOK going in the second round, which, you know, a crazy fall for him. I mean, that defense has just got way better.
And it wasn't bad to start with.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, they have almost no holes in that roster now, especially on the defense. So, and obviously you got Myles Garrett and a great defensive line there as well. That is a tough spot for, you know, a Pittsburgh offensive line. You know, like you say, we've just drafted a kind of a project at center and at tackle, but we've got now Chuck Okorafor and Zach Banner, who used to play for the Browns, now coming back from injury, who are projected to start on both sides, bookend tackles. That's a tough sell for me. As much as I might like those guys personally, that is, you know, the proof's going to be in the pudding. The Steelers seem to like those guys a lot more than, you know, maybe I do right now.
Just to update you as well, Cleveland have just picked at 132, and they've taken potentially the best defensive tackle left on the board, Tommy Togiai. And I was a big fan of his, rotational player at Ohio State, but very athletic and powerful. So maybe things are getting even harder over there.
There goes another one. Listen, you've got to place the trust in the Steelers' brain trust, right? They've been one of the most consistent organizations over decades, you know. So, and this has been one of the things with me on Twitter lately. I've tried to avoid being too negative because, you know, a lot of people are ready to say, hey, Kevin Colbert knows a lot more about the draft than you. And that's true. But, you know, it would be disingenuous for me to say that, you know, I loved everything the Steelers did, right? I'm here just to give my honest takes, and not everyone's going to agree with it. But
oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you might get more clicks if you're negative as well. You never know. Just to speak about Ben, obviously he came back. He might not have. He had him kind of over the barrel, and he was kind of pleading to stay. And you obviously got him to reduce his contract significantly. But do you think that once he's gone, that signals the start of rebuild for you? Or do you think you can carry on? Because obviously you've had to do a lot of manoeuvring to make that happen. You were in cap hell before he decided to reduce the contract.
Yeah, you know, we're going to need a new quarterback. That's what it comes down to, right? It's going to be an active rebuild. I know that's a bit of a cliche in the NFL now, right? But it's Mason Rudolph is not the long-term answer for me. Some people might try and argue that maybe he's still got some development to do.
Yeah, he signed a new contract today, didn't he?
Yeah, he got an extension yesterday.
Yeah, so a 1-year extension. Listen, I don't hate it because you've got to have a guy in there that knows the system, and he can start. You know, people forget we went. You know, we had a winning season when Ben was out for most of the year, starting Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So, you know, this is a team that doesn't necessarily need to, you know, tank for Trevor or whatever the case may be in a couple of years, but at the same time, that can be a struggle then to try and find that next quarterback. You know, the dream for me would have been Justin Fields falling far enough to make some kind of crazy trade, but that was never going to happen realistically. So,
why couldn't you have traded up for him at 11? Why?
I know.
Why did you let the Bears have him?
I apologize.
Simon, I think like one of the craziest stats about the Steelers, which I absolutely love, is, you know, obviously the fact that since 1969 you've had 3 head coaches, which is absolutely insane. I mean, I'm a massive Man United fan, so I kind of supported the team all the way through the Alex Ferguson era, and I kind of saw the benefits, but also the negatives of that. In that, you know, sometimes you just kind of, towards the end, you were kind of getting to that feeling that Ferguson wasn't quite, you know, being able to keep pace with some of the new kind of like coaching strategies and that other teams were kind of like hitting on. You know, like in terms of the way that like Wenger, say, got ahead of him for a period of time before the wheels came off at Arsenal. And do you think that could be something with Tomlin in terms of the fact that I think he's now been in charge for 14 years? Are you worried that continuity also adds sometimes like being a bit stale?
Yeah, it's strange with Tomlin because, I mean, Tomlin's still realistically one of the younger coaches, or at least in the middle of the pack in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
But you do get that with the Steelers. But I wonder if a lot of that comes from kind of Kevin Colbert and the sort of the player personnel side of things as well, because that's been going on for a couple of decades. The Steelers do seem like one of these teams that are the least willing to kind of embrace, you know, analytical thinking. And, you know, just look at the running back first round situation, right? Very few teams are really willing to do that anymore, where we were, especially with the needs that we had. So, yeah, that is definitely a concern of mine that we aren't moving with the times, but the proof's in the pudding. I'm going to wait until, you know, a lot of people in Pittsburgh, from what I can tell, if you're in and around Steelers Twitter a lot of the time, do seem to be calling for Tomlin's head every 5 seconds. But I think you got to give him
crazy.
some. It is crazy. You got to give him some, you know, some leeway here. I mean, this guy's never had a losing season. He's won 2 Super Bowls. You know, I think sometimes people are a little bit nuts with reactions to the things Tomlin does, as head scratching as they can be sometimes. He obviously brings a lot of value to the Steelers, you know.
When Matt Patricia got fired, we were discussing, like, you know, dream coaches, and for me, like, Tomlin would be like dream coach for the Lions. I'd love to see Tomlin in Detroit. So, you know, for all that, I know Steelers fans sometimes get after him a bit. You know, I mean, look at, you know, the Alex Ferguson thing when David Moyes took over. Like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, you know, you're totally right. I love Tomlin. I've never been on this. You know, I've never chanted fire shot Tomlin. I've never been that guy. Tomlin is one of my favorite guys in and around the Steelers. Oh, we've got a Ian Buck pick. Is that the
that's
reaction?
awful. That's an awful
Jesus
reach.
Christ.
He's terrible.
Oh, wow. That is not the developmental quarterback you want in New Orleans.
The
Jeez.
fourth
looking
round,
forward
I
to
bet you
the-
could have got him in the fifth or sixth. Like, I do not rate him at all.
Looking forward to the Jameis Winston Ian Buck quarterback competition in New Orleans.
Oh, God, that's awful. I think I'd rather go with Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's saying something, that is. Jesus.
But I guess with the Steelers, the problem that you've got is, like, when was the last time the Steelers picked in the top 10? I mean, it must be years.
Yeah. Well, we had to trade up for Devin Bush a couple of years ago at the 10th pick, and that's and actually earning a 10th pick, not in my tenure.
But because of the value of quarterbacks now and the way that the draft works, to get to make that trade up is going to be so difficult for the Steelers. So, are there any sort of potential free agency quarterbacks that you wouldn't mind, like, taking over as a potential successor?
Well, the funny thing is, before all this broke, just before the draft, my co-host Gav has been touting the horn for taking Aaron Rodgers on as like a gap quarterback for a few years after Ben retires. That's always been his thing.
To be able to have Aaron Rodgers as a bridge.
But that's looking unlikely now. Apparently he's off to Denver. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. There's no one in the free. I mean, to talk of like maybe a Kirk Cousins, right, coming in next year. Who's going to be there next year? It's hard to say, but
Please don't take him away from the North.
yeah,
Yeah, we like Kirk Cousins.
I bet you do. I don't love any of it. I would be really wanting to take a rookie quarterback, but I think there's going to be some dark years here. Not everyone can have that Green Bay transition, right, from Favre to Rodgers.
No, absolutely. Is there anyone later on in the draft that you're looking at that you'd like to take, that you've fallen in love with? You said you've obviously spent 12 weeks on the draft, so I imagine your knowledge is pretty good.
I'll tell you who I want is, and this is going to be a strange one. I want a punter, and I'm not even too bothered which one it is. I am just desperate for the Steelers to upgrade the punting position. This has been my corner for 2 years now. We continue to just acquiesce to just awful punters. I think this is like hidden yardage. This is something Bill Belichick takes advantage of, right? Use the punter as a weapon. Get a nice directional punter in there. Let's put some nice draft capital in there. The 6th or 7th round. Let's go for it, guys.
We know all about a punter. Like you say, they can change a game. Like I say, special teams is so underrated. It's probably
100%.
the most important factor of the game. If you can flip the field, like I say, you're playing chess.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. We had a Pro Bowl punter last year, and it was amazing. But we did pick him up from off the scrap heap. Really, he was somewhere else before, and then we picked him up. He was in a punting competition with an Aussie rules punter, and apparently there was nothing to split them. You know, it was effectively like a toss of the coin as to which one stayed on the roster, and Aaron Sipos had to fall to the practice squad. And this man, who barely won his spot, ends up on the in the Pro Bowl. So, do you really buy into the idea that you'll draft a punter, or do you think that you can pick up one realistically as an undrafted free agent?
Yeah, of course you can. But when you get to the 6th and 7th round, right, you're looking for special teams and sort of spot contributors. So I got no problem. If you like a guy, go ahead and take him in the 6th or 7th round, no problem. But just on, sorry,
there is actually an Aussie rules punter that people are backing that is going to be drafted this year. I can't think of his name, but apparently he's like absolutely amazing.
It's been a very weird influx of, in college football, there's a lot of AFL kickers that they do the side kick. They don't pump front, like they throw it out and then like swipe left. Like, it's become quite a big trend now to get like American AFL punters. So there's going to be a big influx in the NFL in a few years of Aussie rules guys.
Just to give you a couple names, though, when I look in the later rounds, it's easier with kind of like receiver and stuff. I see some of these guys. Obviously, Steele's been great at drafting receiver in the 2nd and 3rd round, but I kind of like them to take a guy in the later rounds. Someone, Simi Fehoko out of Stanford, I really like.
Yeah, he's great.
taller receiver, or a Josh Imotobebe. I mean, I don't know if you saw some of the tape on him. I mean, this dude can leap.
Oh, he's got the highest vertical of anyone in the draft, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
And incredible.
I mean, get some jump balls for him. So yeah, just a couple of developmental guys I'd love to see him take in the later rounds.
I'll tell you what, Matthew Stafford would like to throw to that guy, considering some of the jump balls he's thrown in his career to Megatron. That would have been a nice fit in the Rams, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah, the Ravens have now taken 2 receivers. So I think they took Rashad Bateman on day 1, and they've taken Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma like today. So that's 2 nice threats for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, well, the Ravens have got to take some wide receivers in the draft because nobody will go there in free agency. They don't want a running back throwing to them, so it is tough for them. I do like Bateman though.
Savage, Simon. Savage.
I will say, hey, I like you guys.
Simon.
Sorry, go on.
Do you like Juju Smith-Schuster? What's your opinion on Juju?
I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I wanted to bring him up to you guys because I wanted to comp him to Amon-Ra St. Brown that you guys have just taken, right?
Yeah.
But Juju gets. I'd be interested to ask you guys actually because I think Juju gets a really hard rap outside Pittsburgh. It seems like he's kind of been overlooked. So it's like some of this TikTok stuff like just gets overblown massively, and it feels like that's all anyone cares about. The dude is like a seriously hard-nosed, middle of the field kind of receiver. Does all the hard work for the Steelers. Doesn't get any recognition. Doesn't make a fuss. Like you would think he's like a diva like Antonio Brown. He's not. He's like he's a great dude to have around, and I think people just he dances on the Bengals logo once, and that's all anyone wants to talk about. But he's an awesome possession receiver across the middle, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a similar kind of guy who I really liked. We do Red Stars on our podcast, who we pick a player that is kind of one of our favorites in the class, and I went with Amon-Ra in the wide receiver class because I think he's a similar guy to Juju.
I'll never forget when Juju he laid out Vontaze Burfict and then he stood over him. What a photo that is.
Oh,
you could
Burfict is just a hateful player,
isn't he? That was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with Juju is you know everything you need to know about his character in the manner in which he returned to Pittsburgh. He put himself out on the market, didn't get the offers he wanted, got an offer from Baltimore, wasn't it? I think that was for significantly more money than he was offered at Pittsburgh, and decided to stay. And you know what? You can dance on a logo of someone and do these TikTok things, but actually, you know what? The actions matter, and you can have a bit of fun. But when it comes to it, that's a stand-up move.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm shocked by it, to be honest, because loads of Steelers Nation loves Juju, but equally there's a lot of them that get on Juju and frankly abuse him online. And I'm surprised that he has as much love for the Steelers as he did. I wouldn't have been surprised if someone like him just said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go to the Chiefs and win a Super Bowl. But he didn't. He clearly loves the city and the team. So, yeah, fair play to him.
Absolutely. Any last questions for Simon, boys? No.
What do you think of the Lions draft so far?
Yeah, I wanted to mention. Yeah, I love some of the moves you guys have made. I mean, firstly, Sewell. I mean, I put a bet on the Lions getting Sewell early because I thought he was going to drop because of these offensive weapons, and he did. And I mean, I think he's the best player in the draft outside the quarterbacks. I've been saying this for a long time. Dude is crazy athletic from the left tackle spot. You can do all kinds of interesting things with him, sort of sweeping on the outside. I mean, a guy his size should not move the way that he does, so that's exciting for you. And then with the defensive tackles, right? Levi Onwuzurike. I think I've nailed that one. And Aleem McNeil, who's my Red Star defensive tackle. I love Aleem McNeil, dude. I mean, just a dude who's really going to eat up blocks in the middle and can get in the backfield, can really get vertical quick as well. I love what you guys have done. What one pick I will criticize. Not in love with the cornerback, Melvin Fonwu.
Oh, really? Oh, that's a surprise. What did you see in him?
What it is, my problem with him, can't abide half-ass tackling and soft play. You watch him on tape, the guy shies away from... He's a big guy, right? He's like 6'2". Yeah. He's like a bigger corner, but he can't change direction, and he plays a little bit soft for me. So I was a little bit out on him, but I know there was like buzz from him, like being a late first rounder, and you got him pretty late though, so... Can't complain too much.
I think it's a good value pick for sure, but ability perhaps is not quite there yet. But he's a prototypical cornerback one in terms of stature and speed. But you're right, the shuttle and 3-cone are worrying, and you can see it on tape too that his agility is iffy. So he's got a little bit of development to do for sure.
Yeah. I thought that I thought you might approve of the Lions players, because I think there is a bit of an affinity between Detroit mentality and the Steelers, and I can see the Steelers been up for a bit of kneecap biting. So probably that kind of mentality of like stacking both lines is probably the sort of thing that Tomlin would have approved of as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd have loved to get Aleem McNeil straight up in the middle. We re-signed. It looked like we were going to lose Tyson Alualu, and that was going to be the guy I wanted to replace him in like the second or third rounds, but ended up not happening. But yeah, I'm glad he's landed with the Lions.
Yeah,
Cardinals have got the corner.
Marco Wilson, from Florida.
He's not bad actually.
He's way down there though.
He's the guy that took off his cleat and threw it and got flagged 15 yards, and they lost the game on the next play, I think.
Yeah, he was on 2-for-1 drafts recently, trying to talk about how, it was one moment he got caught up in it, but, he's grown up a bit and he's going to try not to again. I don't know.
So.
And then just on AFC North matters, Simon, we had a very entertaining debate about the Bengals pick. And Ant, who's not on at the moment, he said that if the Bengals didn't pick Penei Sewell to protect Joe Burrow, then they should immediately charge the Bengals management with neglect and attempted murder. What are your thoughts in terms of getting Chase over Sewell? What would you have done, or are you pleased with the outcome?
Well, yeah, I am and I'm not. I mean, on the one hand, it is a scary prospect to see Jamar Chase and the other guys that they've got. They've got a really solid wide receiver core there. But yeah, I'd have gone Sewell definitely. I think I just don't think you can miss with Sewell. I think his upside is insane. I mean, Chase's as well, but I just think getting that solid left tackle. I also didn't love what they did later on. I mean, Jackson Carman, I don't hate him, but a bit of a reach there, I think. Not the tackle I would have gone for, worthy pick. So, hey, listen, I'm sure the Bengals even might know more than me. Well, that might be a stretch, but
you never know. They've been suspect.
Yeah, it's not the way I would have gone.
No, thank you so much for your time coming on. Is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Well, just follow me at UK Steelers Podcast. I'm just tweeting unpopular opinions on the Steelers all day. But thanks for letting me come on and chat ball.
We love a hot take. Thank you so much again for coming on, Simon.
Cheers, man. Enjoy the draft.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy.
See ya.